In the parable of the talents, have you ever wondered why Jesus chose the number 5, 2, and 1? In other words, why he gave one 5 talents, the other 2, and then the last one 1? Do those numbers mean anything? And why did he choose those numbers? Well, stay tuned, because we're going to go in depth and we're going to study that, and we're going to bring out the meaning and some things that you may not have seen before, all in the parable of the talents. So in this parable, we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 25, verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. All right, first of all, we're going to time out, take a pause here. It says the kingdom of heaven is like. And if you go up in Matthew just a little bit before that, you get another parable about the kingdom of heaven is like. So he's consistent with this theme. So here in this parable, once again, the kingdom of heaven is like. So keep that in mind, that going throughout this whole parable, it's about the kingdom. All right, let's continue. To one he gave 5 talents, another 2, and another 1, each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who received 1 went and dug into the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought the other 5, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I've gained and brought 5 other talents. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you a ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Now, he also had received 2 talents, came to the Lord. You delivered me 2 talents. Look, I've gained 2 more besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew, we're going to focus in on that in a minute, you to be a hard man or a harsh man, reaping where you've not sown, gathering where you've not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, here is what is yours. But the Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I've not sown and gather where I've not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited the money with the bankers, and at my coming I would receive back with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10. For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there's the parable. I'm sure a bunch of you have heard this parable many, many times. But I want to emphasize, we're going to take it piece by piece. Remember, this is about the kingdom of heaven. And look at the very end. It says, unprofitable servant goes into outer darkness where there be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's pretty serious. So let's take a look at this one by one. At the beginning I said, you ever remember, why did he choose 5, 2, and 1? Why couldn't it have been 10, 3, and 1, 100, 40, and 2, whatever? Why those specific numbers? Let's take a look. So in Hebrew meaning, the number 5 represents a number for grace and favor. The number is found 318 times in the Bible. The number 318 is significant because it is the number of armed servants in Abram's house who rescued Lot. It is grace that rescues us and sets the captive free. So remember that. So he chose 5, specifically that number in this parable, to represent grace and favor. How about the number 2? The number 2 signifies a double witness. God established 2 covenants in the Bible. First, as a double witness of truth, but also to establish direction. Going from the old to the new covenant shows a progression of revelation from a lesser to the greater. So it is a double witness. So that's why he chose the number 2, and we'll go a little bit more into it in just a second. So the last one is 1. Why did he choose the number 1? The number 1 signifies unity, or that which comes first. Like in the beginning, Genesis, in the beginning. Or in Hebrew, when the Echad, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. So it signifies there can only be one beginning. Unity. But let's take a look, a little bit deeper look at those specific numbers. Now keep in mind that every Hebrew letter of the alphabet has a number associated to it. If it were English, for example, A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3, and so on and so on and so on. So let's take a look at 5, 2, and 1 and see which Hebrew letters are associated to those numbers and what they mean. First of all, the number 5 is associated with the letter Beit. Well, I'm sorry, the letter He. And you say, okay, what the letter He represents revelation and grace. Number 2 is Beit, and that means house or house of God. Then the number 1 is Aleph, and Aleph means God the Father. So let's take those 3 numbers and their meanings and with the letters and form a sentence, and here's what it is. God, grace to the house of God the Father. So if you take those 3 letters, He, Beit, Aleph, it actually forms a word, a Hebrew word, Chaba. And Chaba, grace to the house of God the Father. So you're telling me that Jesus specifically uses 5, 2, and 1, the number of the talents, to form this word, Chaba, which means grace to the house of God the Father? Absolutely. Remember at the very beginning, the kingdom of heaven is like, and so he used those numbers to show that the kingdom of heaven, grace to the house of God the Father. But wait, there's more. Yes, there is more to it. In Hebrew, you have words, and in those words you have a root of the word. Let's take a look at this. 5, 2, and 1, and it forms the word chava. But what does that mean? What does the word chava mean in Hebrew? It means next. Wow. And then when you form the whole word, it means to come. So what are you trying to say here? That which is next to come. So the numbers 5, 2, and 1 form the word chava. The root and the word itself are next to come, which means that which is to come. Remember at the beginning, the kingdom of heaven is like, and in those talents, those numbers, it's saying that which is next to come. Are you getting this? Are you connecting the dots? So the whole parable here is what the kingdom of heaven is like. Like I said, the talents add up to come, and the kingdom of heaven is a reward system. Remember, we came back and he gave settle accounts, or to reward them for what they have or haven't done. It's a reward system. So it's based on each one's ability, and if the ability is used, the reward is given. When a God-given talent is not used and hidden, there is a disconnect from the owner, and you are no longer one with him. Remember, the talent of the one who had one, he hid his talent. When he hid his talent, he disconnected himself from the owner. They are no longer one. So when you disconnect yourself from the owner, then there is no longer reward. There is only punishment. Now I want to show you a couple of things in verse 24. Remember I said we'd get back to this. He says, Lord, I knew you to be a harsh man. Now wait a minute. In the parable, he's talking to him directly, to the owner directly. Why is he talking to the owner directly in the past tense? Why not the present tense? If I'm talking to the owner, I'd say, hey, I know you're a harsh man. But why did he say, I knew you were a harsh man? The reason he's speaking in the past is because of the disconnect. When he hid his talent, when he didn't use what was given to him, he disconnected himself from the owner, so now it's in the past. So there's no longer a present relationship. Can't speak in the present because there's no longer that connection. Wow. And he says in verse 25, I was afraid. When there's a disconnect, fear enters in. Fear can take over. And unfortunately, when that happens, what happened at the end, there was a disconnect. Fear came in, fear took over, and the punishment was very, 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 very harsh and very serious. Go into outer darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. So when living in the disconnect, the owner takes the reward, takes that talent away and gives it to another. When the talent is taken away because of disconnection, the reward becomes a punishment. So the parable of the kingdom of heaven and what is coming next. A reward to those who use the God-given talents intentionally, and a punishment to those who hide or don't use their talent. The non-usage of the talent creates a disconnect with God, providing a life of fear and trepidation. So the kingdom of heaven operates through love, respect, and never fear. Fear is not of God. So I hope this sheds light on this parable, some things you haven't seen before, that those numbers were very specific for that parable and the description of what the kingdom of heaven is like. All right, so if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and most importantly, share it with other people because they need to hear it too.